when I first came into the home building business, I discovered how backwards the industry was. They were building houses like they were 200 years prior, and it was just unbelievable. I bought a house myself. It was not a good experience buying a house. So I come back, I ask everyone, do all the builders do it like this? They go, yeah. I had to go over town. I couldn't go in one place. They wouldn't tell me anything. No one knew the price of anything. I'm buying a house and no one can tell me how much this stuff costs. I said, this is the craziest thing in the world. Why would even people buy a house? Well, they had no other choice. No one told anyone what the house costs. They give them the base price and a lot of premiums, and they wouldn't even give them options. They have options, but just wouldn't tell them what it was. I thought, that's crazy. This industry is stupid. Why do people put up with this?
Welcome to the Builder Straight Talk podcast with your host, Michael Creasa. Get the unfiltered truth from the trenches of construction, real estate, and funding. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.
Well, hey there, friend. Michael Creasa here, your host of Builder Straight Talk. And in this week's conversation, I had the pleasure of sitting down with a gentleman by the name of Dennis Webb of Fulton Homes, and they're out of Arizona. And what makes this guy so unique is, unlike other people that I say are legacy builders, meaning they had a family member, like a father, grandfather, uncle, that brought them onto a work site, and then ultimately they caught the bug, became builders. This guy had nothing to do with construction, no association whatsoever. As a matter of fact, he honed his skills, if you will, in retail, selling men's clothing. Men's clothing, construction, what do the two have in common? What you're going to discover in this conversation is they have a lot in common, especially when it comes to ingenuity, being able to leverage skills from one trade and bring it into the other, and having a different kind of mindset where you can see outside of the builder's box and bring in new innovation and technology, which literally change the way construction is being done. And you're going to find out that and so much more in this conversation. So speaking of more, and I ask this a lot, I'm asking more of you right now. Pretty please, with the click of your mouse, subscribe, like, and share. Subscribe, like, and share to the podcast. That's what helps gets us into the algorithm so more people can hear what we have to say. So pretty please, with the click of that mouse, subscribe, like, and share. So without further ado, let's hop into this conversation with Dennis Webb of Fulton Homes. I know you're going to like it. Mr. Dennis Webb, I want to welcome you to the call today. I hope all things are well by you. And your opportunity to say hello. Yeah. Tell us, before we get into your story. Yeah, I got to say that I've done about 50 interviews so far. And of all the builders that I've done, I would say 80% or so, like a high percentage, are legacy builders in that they've had a family member, friend that has brought them onto the site, and somehow they caught the bug to build homes. And some went as far as actually running away from home because they wanted nothing to do with the family business. Right. But ultimately, the road led them back. When I look at your bio and where you were prior to construction, I would say that a Martian could land in the parking lot of your company, knock on the door, and say, I'm here for the project manager job, and they would have more in line with construction than you did when you first showed up. Am I off the mark with that one?
No, that's completely accurate. That's completely accurate.
Yeah. So let's do a deep dive there, my friend. So prior to construction or getting into building, you were in retail. Yeah. What did you touch? What did you drink that motivated you to leave retail and come into construction?
Well, it was a circumstance more than anything else. It was just kind of after spending 25 years in the retail business, I was in men's clothing and primarily suits. And that business became just non-existent almost, because people just stopped wearing suits. And that was our main emphasis and everything like that. So the whole industry had changed, and it really took a giant nosedive, okay? And so then I went to work for this guy named Ira Fulton, who owned a big and tall store with suits and sportswear and things like that in Los Angeles. And I came in as vice president of stores. And he was a really good guy, and he had a great, highly successful business. He actually started the home building business out of. It was financed from Eagleson's during the savings loan debacle in the late 80s, he was able to take the profits from Eagleson's and pour it into buying homes in Phoenix or lots in Phoenix for 10 cents on the dollar, which propelled him to be one of the larger builders in Phoenix. Well, he had a great business and he decided to sell the business in 1995. I didn't know, but he had a non-compete clause that he couldn't hire any employees that he had previously employed for a year. So I kept in touch with Doug, his son, who was the president of Eagleson's, and he had moved over to Fulton Homes as they sold it. And I kept talking to him and things like that. And then one day they said, well, why don't you come over here and we'll sit down and talk and things like that. And I was, Phoenix was part of my territory. So I came over to Phoenix and had lunch with Ira and Doug, and they offered me a position. They said, you want to come over here and help us build houses? So I said, I don't know anything about houses. He said, yeah, but you know about, marketing and people and operations, and you have, good creative skills and things like that. And I said, okay, so I'll do that. So I talked to my wife, and we decided to move me and her and my two kids that were in junior high and high school over to Phoenix to help them build homes. So that was in 1996, almost 30 years ago.
Great jump. So let me ask you, how does that feel that you're completely uprooting your family and basically you're stepping into the great unknown? Like, the guy that you're going to be working with, but stepping into a brand new industry. And I can see the crossover in sales and stuff, but how did that make you feel, man?
It was really, to me, it was exciting. I had spent all my years in the retail business and I knew nothing but retail. I knew it really well, but it really didn't help because retail business was going on the other side of the world, and the home building business was strong. And I really enjoyed working with Ira and Doug at Eagleson's, and they were great to me. And I helped them, change things, and they were very supportive and everything like that. And I thought maybe that same thing could continue in the home building business, although I just didn't have the knowledge of home building like I did in retail.
I got to say, there are two more things that I've discovered about you that we have in common. One, we both have that sense of adventure, to step into the breach. And two, as far as I know, I've always been in men's clothing as well.
Wearing it.
Exactly. To the best of my knowledge there, Dennis.
Yeah.
What skill sets did you bring over, like from your experience in retail? And that was 20 years in retail, roughly?
25.
So of that quarter century of experience that you garnered, how did that transition over to what you were doing in production building?
I think the big thing was the creativity and the ability to be able to think outside the box and do new things. The thing that was really interesting to me when I first came into the home building business, I discovered how backwards the industry was. Retail was very sophisticated, has great systems and everything like that. Home building was, they were building houses like they were, 200 years prior. And it was just unbelievable. And no one really cared about systems or anything like that. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, wait a minute, there's a bunch of stuff that could be done here, And that's the part that really said, it's exciting. Plus in retail, you use analytical abilities to be able to make decisions, and you use data to justify those decisions. Well, at Fulton Homes at the time, they didn't even care about that. They were just building houses and selling from what you can, and no one was really analyzing anything. I said, well, I think we can change that, and we can use data to help us really understand, our growth and things like that. So in that respect, it was easy for me to, slip on in and say, okay, let's try this and let's try that. And the owners and Doug and Ira were very supportive on, things that I wanted to do. Plus, I didn't know any better. I was just a retailer.
That would have been my next question. Doug and Ira, how much of a runway did you give you? Like, for example, me doing this podcast, the people at Sound Capital said, here's the deal. It's yours. Just make sure we don't get sued and try to stay out of trouble the best you can.
Yeah.
How much latitude did they give you? And especially you're coming in with these new ideas which you're completely out of the box.
Right. It was amazing. They go, okay, that's fine. The good thing is they were both in the retail business. And so was Norm Nichols, who's our president, who's Ira's son-in-law. And Norm was a sportswear buyer for Eagleson. So everyone had a retail background. So when I talked about taking retail principles and moving it into home building, it was not only, appreciated, it was expected. And I was the elder retail. I had been in the retail business for 25 years, and they hadn't been there that long. So I had all the answers, so to speak. And so I became the retail expert, and I said, well, let's try this. If it doesn't work, we'll do something else. And that's what we did.
So I guess it's fair to say you guys all spoke the same language. You were just doing it in a different country.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So what would have been, I take it, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you strike me as being a very analytical person.
Yes.
So you would have probably walked in, assessed the situation, the way they were doing things day to day, and then you would have created a list of things that you want to do. What
Yep.
were the first, let's say, top 3 things that you implemented, and what were the fruits that were born as a result of that?
First thing I did is I looked at how we did our contract process, and it was a disaster. All manual, and it was just crazy. And I said to Doug, Doug, we've got to take these contracts and put them on a computer and have all the salespeople write the contracts on a computer. We're making too many mistakes. We're making too many errors. It's costing us a lot. They go, okay, go ahead. And so you think, okay, let's just write, let's just do do contracts on computers, right? Easy, right? No, it's hard. You have to get a program, you have to write it and things like that. Then you have to train your salespeople, and they're not wild about it. These are old dogs, and they're trying to do new tricks. And so,
Hold on, I'm gonna jump in here, Dennis. I'm gonna hold up your book,
okay,
right? And I'm just turning to page 1 right now, and I'm giggling every time I read this. It's when I asked Stan Heyman what kind of laptops we're using, he answered, they're gray. I think that sets up everything for what you were stepping into.
yeah, it does. It does. When we finally said, okay, well, let's do this. Let's write contracts on the computer, and then we started doing more stuff. And I said, well, how about if we, track stuff and, track sales associates and track, all these different items on performance and things like that. And so I just made up a bunch of information that we would track every month on salespeople and review them and see how they're doing and go from there. And then we had some really good salespeople at the time, and we just tried to make them better. We gave them a lot of information. We gave them tons of data. We made decisions based on that. And then I said, well, I think we need to probably do a website. Website? I don't need a website. What's that? They said, well, how much is that going to cost? I said, I don't know. No one really, there's no builders that are doing them. So, the price is kind of, whatever it is, We had the first builder website in Phoenix, and it was in 1997. There's this company called Homebuilder.com. They said, well, we'll build you a website. We're going to charge you $5,000. I said, well, that seems like a lot. So I went to Ira. I said, would you be interested in $5,000 to build a website? And he goes, well, I don't think so. See what else you can come up with. So I went back to Homebuilder and I said, okay, let me make you a deal. Let's build a website for Fulton Homes, and we'll do kind of almost like a joint venture, and I'll sell it for you. Okay? So you build this website, and it'll be for us, and you sell it all over the country. But you have to do it gratis because it's an advertising tool, right? And they go, oh, I don't know, we're not sure. And I said, okay, we'll do it. So they did this site, and it was great. And we had the first website, and we sold 100 sites all over the country from our website. And it was just unbelievably successful. And they were really appreciative of my efforts because I just, did set up the thing, and then I'd close it. So I was the closer. And it worked out really well. So we had the first.
You're thinking like a typical retailer, like you're looking for a deal. And you're haggling back and forth. And again, you're stepping into uncharted territory. And this whole thing with websites back then is crazy. I really respect the fact that Ira, again, gave you that latitude because he reminds me a lot of my boss, Gary Elwood. And as I was building the site, we hadn't turned a single nickel yet. But man, are we pouring gas into the fire to make things work? Like you said, a website, all the tech gear that we used. And every time I was going to buy something, I would send him an email and I'd say, Gary, here's what I need to get. And he just got so fed up with that. He said, is it going to be more than a Lear jet? I said, no, then don't bug me. If it's more than a Lear jet, then I want to see the invoice. Until then, leave me alone. It seems Ira's got the same blood flowing through his veins.
Oh, yeah. But he has always been a champion of technology. he was the national sales manager for National Cash Register, which was probably the first computers for retailers. He did POS machines he was selling all over the country, and they were a leader in that. And so when he bought Eagleson's, which was two stores in bankruptcy, and turned it into a 33 store, $25 million business, it was incredible, what he did. But he kind of used the technology and said, we're going to use this technology and it's going to help our business. And he'd do the same thing in home building. So if I could just work with him and say, okay, well, I'm going to try this and everything. And the next thing is, we used to do all our options and our plans by hand. There'd be a floor plan and things like that. And I said, well, why don't we do this on computer? So I worked with our architects, and we came up with this system where we had interactive options. So if you have an extra garage or an extra room over here, or you want a fireplace here, you put it on a computer and it puts it on the system, and everyone sees it, and it's all neat and clean and everything like that. Before, they were hand drawing those things. Salespeople aren't the best artists in the world. And the contracts department was going nuts trying to figure out what they wanted, what the buyer wanted. So we put this thing in. We were the first to do an interactive floor plan. We put them on our website. So buyers, we used it as a marketing tool. So buyers could see what the house looked like before they bought it. Then we just said, well, let's use it as a construction tool. Our project managers and the vendors would see exactly what that house was going to look like with all the options. So the interactive options, everyone uses them now. We were the first ones to do it.
That's crazy. I bet many of the younger builders listening right now are saying, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is back then, this is like black magic. Yeah, it's like black magic.
Yeah.
Wow.
They didn't know what was going on,
Dennis, let's do this. We really haven't introduced who Fulton Builders is. So what if you give us a bit of the backstory, like where they're located, average production per year, and actually the genesis, how did it come to be?
It's a good story. So Ira had the big and tall stores in Los Angeles, and his nephews wanted to get involved in the construction business in Phoenix. So he lent them a bunch of money and said, okay, good luck. And they were mostly doing remodels, but they do a few new homes. It was called Ashton Construction. And they weren't doing real well. And so Ira was getting a little impatient. So after a couple of years, he sent Norm, his son-in-law, over to get his money back, basically. So Norm came over, and Norm was previously a buyer at Eagleson, so he had a retail background. And he was working with in the grocery business up in Idaho. So he dispatches Norm over to Phoenix to get his money back. And after about 6 months, he calls up Ira and says, I think we can make a go of this, but we gotta get these guys out of here, and we'll take it over and we'll change the name to Fulton Homes. And that's what he did. And it was hugely successful. And as I told you, the great part of it was in the late 80s when they got that giant influx of money from Eagleson's and was able to do the RTC houses and buy lots on 10 cents on the dollar. And that just unbelievably improved the thing. So what happened after that, of course, is they sold Eagleson's in 1995, and they took that money, and he was able to come up with because the profits were really good, and the banks were loving to be part of us and things like that. So he came up with a $250 million unsecured credit facility with 5 banks with no personal guarantee, which is unheard of. That was pretty good until the crash happened in 2006. Then that became a real issue, But with the money from Eagleson's, that really made it so we could really finance everything without too much problem. So it was really a strong financial decision to sell Eagleson's. It was a great decision at the time.
So right now for Fulton Homes, predominantly, are you Arizona based and that's where you're building?
Yeah, we just built in Arizona and just have been just really in the Phoenix area. So we don't do Tucson or Flagstaff or any of the other ones. So we kind of had the sweet spot was about 1,000 homes a year for many years. And in 2005, we hit 2,200 homes. That was our biggest year. And then it went downhill from there with the crash. The crash was devastating to Phoenix. We dropped down to 300 or 400 homes a year. We went into Chapter 11 in 2009, and that was a kind of a dark moment for us. We didn't want to be closed. The banks wanted us liquidated. So we fought, and we really did things then that we had to, because we didn't want to liquidate. We wanted to stay together. We had all been working together for a long time. We all had a great pride in the business here and just the idea of Fulton Homes. Ira was still is the largest philanthropist in Arizona. He's more notably famous for giving away education dollars. So he's invested about $200 million in ASU and about $100 million in other various charitable endeavors, mostly in education. And the big recipients was BYU and in Provo and Huntsman Cancer Center in Salt Lake City. So it's just unbelievable, the generosity of the guy. It changes everything because everyone has that same feeling. He's a very generous guy. He gives away a lot of money and very well respected. And so we have an advantage in this market where we're known as the local home builder that gives away money and really invests in the community for the future. And it's a very great position to be in. And the publics can't do that stuff. They just can't.
Let's rewind back to the dark days. At your heyday, you're about 2,200
Yep.
from 1,000. Where are you guys humming along right now on average?
We went up to 1,000 again after we came out of Chapter 11. We came out of Chapter 11 in 2011, and so we were there for 2 years. We did a full price offer. Banks accepted it, and we had offered the same thing 2 years before, but they fought us. So we came out with a great business proposition. We had changed a bunch of stuff how we did it. That's when we introduced energy efficient homes. That's when we introduced our design center and a lot of things that really had a lasting effect on the company. At the time we entered Chapter 11, we had a 3% market share. By the time we got out of Chapter 11, we had a 7% market share. So we had to hit a whole bunch of home runs to come out of Chapter 11. That was our goal, to hit a whole bunch of home runs. So we did the opposite of all the publics. We kept building, we kept advertising, we kept innovating, we kept going, and the other guys were kind of sleeping. They would have one model and a thing and, closed on Tuesdays or something like that. And we kept advertising, we did promotions, we kept building, we kept building nicer products. We had to change our product because of price points, but it was just a real concerted effort. And all those things that we started then, we're still doing them today. The energy efficiency, the design center, we offer a tremendous amount of options. We build big communities. So our average community would be from 700 to 2,000 homes. And we'll have 3 or 4 products in that community. So, and we operate it ourselves. So it's like a master plan. But we control it ourselves. We don't sell to other builders. So we might have 3 different products in there, and we'll do move-up buyers. We'll sell the same buyer maybe 2 or 3 houses in that same community. We do a large repeat business because they like how they get treated during the process and everything like that. Customers are the most important thing in our industry. The locals and some of the public builders don't really look at the customer as important. They're vital, and it's the most important thing in our industry. And most builders don't see it that way. They see them as an expense and a liability. They become product-centric versus customer-centric, and we're customer-centric.
I think part of it, too, is past customers become fodder because you're afraid to go back, especially after they take possession. There's going to be a crack.
Yeah.
There's always going to be deficiencies. There's no such thing as a perfect home. But that gives you the opportunity to shine, because when you show up and say, hey, no problem, we're going to fix that, the other thing, there's nothing more important than a raving fan.
You're exactly right.
Unlike it, and you know this from retail, if you do something wrong, they'll tell everybody they know. But it's a disproportionate return, because when you do something great, they'll tell a few people, but not as many as when you do something bad. So either way, you're screwed if you don't live up to your promises and get the job done.
No question. And so the customer, you have to focus on the customer. So we opened up this design center in 2006, right about the crash time. And Ira didn't want to do it. And I said, we got to do it. We're retailers after all. Why not have a design center? So before, we would send buyers to various places, and we had no control over what they'd see. and we didn't have control over their experience. It was just not a good look. I bought a house myself. It was not a good experience buying a house. So I come back, I ask everyone, do all the builders do it like this? They go, yeah. I said, well, I had to go over town. I couldn't go in one place. They wouldn't tell me anything. No one knew the price of anything. I'm buying a house and no one can tell me how much the stuff costs. I said, this is the craziest thing in the world. Why would even people buy a house? Well, there's no other choice. No one told anyone what the house costs. They give them the base price and a lot of premiums, and they wouldn't even give them options. They have options, but just wouldn't tell them what it was. I thought, that's crazy. This industry is stupid. Why do people put up with this? I kind of made the thing that, hey, if we can open up this design center, we can really elevate the customer experience and really have them really appreciate how we do stuff. And then we're going to be transparent with them. We're going to be completely honest with them. We're going to tell them what everything costs. And if they have that transparency, they're going to trust us more. They're going to trust us more than all the other builders. And they're going to use us to as our guiding light to say, okay, we trust these guys because they're honest with us. So they're going to probably build us a much better house than the guy down the street. And that's what we did. We finally opened up the design center, and it was a completely departure that no one had been doing at the time. It was 13,000 square feet, still here. In fact, I'm in it right now. The interesting part, we had a digital design center that goes with it. So we have two design centers that they're kind of moved together. So there's a physical design center that's 13,000 square feet, and we have 2,300 options housed here. Okay, it's massive. We have a digital design center. Everything's online with pricing and everything like that. And then we have a visualizer that shows you what things look like if you pick this and this and this. So we've got kind of the technology part locked in. So it really has helped. The buyers love it. Okay, we had such a great system that we kind of had a partner in the design center, a company called ISI at the time, and they had put up the money to build the design center, which we welcomed, and we paid them a commission, but there was no external capital outlay for us. So it was a really advantage that we grasped at the time, and they were able to make a lot of money off of it. And this is during, we were already in Chapter 11, and the whole business was just in the tank, and so they used the opportunity. So I went to them and I said, you guys probably should think about maybe using our model to sell what you guys do. So they would build the builder and design center, and then they would put in their options and put in their options program called Envision, which we were using, and pay for it and pay for the rent and pay the employees and everything like that, and then share in the profits. And they go, that's great, we'll try it. And they did. And so their first buyer was Pulte. They're pretty big, third largest builder in the country. And they started in Phoenix, and they went to other industries, or other cities, and then all of a sudden they went with Meritage. At the time, we're building a lot of design centers. And then they went with TriPoint, and then Taylor Morrison, and a bunch of other companies that were doing that. And so within a short period of time, they had over 100 design centers that they were operating around the country. They became the largest installer of design center merchandise in the country because of the Fulton Homes model. And they kind of liked us for that for some reason.
You guys at Fulton Homes are you're real trendsetters. It seems, number one, you can kind of see, 5 miles down the road in terms of what's coming and what the consumer wants, more importantly. And it's like you're raising the entire benchmark in the industry. Again, looking back, oh yeah, like today looking back, well, what's the big deal? Design center. But at the time, this is like, again, black magic, cutting edge. Nobody had thought about it.
Yeah. And then, but we have to keep improving it. We can't just rest on our laurels, So they started selling this thing and did really well. That was great. But then 6 months after we opened the design center, I said, there's a lot of things we have to change. We have just started this thing, and no one had done things like this. And so we had to change a bunch of stuff. And they had already spent over $1 million on the physical plant here. And I'm saying, we need to spend about $200,000 more because we didn't do things right. We changed kind of the way we operate a little bit. We changed our our merchandise mix. We changed vendors. We changed all sorts of stuff. We had a room back here that we had outdoor kitchens. It was great, beautiful. No one wanted it. We couldn't keep doing that. So just like in retail, we used dollars per square foot to measure everything. We had $0 per square foot. Well, that wasn't going to work. We said, okay, we're going to make this kitchens instead of outdoor barbecues. And we did things like that. We brought in General Electric appliances because they were much more buyer friendly. We changed just our layout and things. Buyers wanted to see what things looked like more. We used larger samples. We did everything, in a vignette type things. We took previously that were areas for appointments. We made them merchandise and kitchens. So we end up with 9 full kitchens in here and bathrooms and everything like that. So we had to redo the thing. And then we also said we need to get the salespeople more involved in the process. We need to get the salespeople more involved in the design process. So we started paying them a full commission on anything sold in the design center. I had the brilliant idea of saving money and kind of cut them out of commissions in the design center because the designers were selling stuff. And that didn't work out so well because they kind of badmouthed the design center and things like that. And so after 6 months, we changed that. They became, friends of the designers and supporting them with the whole process. We decided at that time, right after we opened, to start what we call a browse night, where we invite all our buyers to the design center 2 times a month on Thursdays from 5 to 8 to look at the options and things like that. And so it started off kind of slow. It got better and better. People liked it. They were able to see merchandise. The visual attributes online was good, but they weren't able to touch it and feel what it looked like and see the colors. And some things translate well online, some things don't. And so started doing these nights and people just started liking it and they were more interested. And then salespeople said, my customer wanted me to join them on this browse night. I said, yeah, come on over. So they started coming to these browse nights, and then they were noticing they could sell houses to buyers at the browse night. And since they were on total commission, that was a pretty good idea for them. They just thought this was so super. And we ended up selling tons of houses on browse night because they could close them at browse night and then come back to their sales office and then write a contract the next week. We would show the buyer what the house was going to look like and tell them what it was going to look like and how much it was going to cost before they actually wrote the contract. So we give buyer access to all that stuff before they even buy the house. And then once they buy the house, then they've got, full everything and they're able to do whatever they want. But the salespeople were just an integral part of that process. One year, we did about 1,000 homes and 150 were done by salespeople selling the house at the browse night. So that was pretty good. That was 2019.
Seems like a no-brainer. You've got somebody going through. So talk to me like I'm 6 here, Dennis, so I can really get this. You've created a design center, which is basically a retail experience.
Yep.
It's like they're walking into a store, and I'm envisioning that each part of the design center is laid out like a store. Here's your kitchen area, bath area. So they're getting that feel as they go, kind of like IKEA. Would that be fair to say that?
Very, very similar. Yeah, a bunch of vignettes. We don't have anything lined up. It's all retail. Okay.
Okay.
We used our retail principles, and it was so easy for us to do that because we had been doing this in stores for all these years. And so,
but you created footprints of so for example, if I'm thinking of a living room, you've got a footprint of a living room and what it would look like with the furniture arranged, kitchen, the same kind of idea.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. So then from the salesperson's perspective, I mean, you've got this happy couple. Oh, what a beautiful kitchen. Yes, John, I'd like to have it like this. Well, honey, where do you want to put it? Well, let's put it in our new home. Enter salesperson. It just seems like a perfect mix.
Well, and the other thing is we said, well, first of all, we need to have a large selection. And we need to have a large selection by price point. So we use a good, better, best, just like we did in retail. So you have a starting point, you have a standard option, which our standards are really good. And then we have better, and then we have best. And so we do that in every category we can. But we also try to make it fun and exciting. So we'll do some categories that we're not going to sell a whole bunch of, but they're wow factors. Okay.
Yeah.
So, for instance, we have a Mullen shower that's voice activated. We have it here, and we demo it here at the design center. And you can say, Mullen, turn on the shower. And you can do that from your bed, and you can preset it to whatever temperature you like. And maybe the wife wants one temperature and the husband wants another, and they can do that. It'll tell you when it's ready. You can say, okay, and you can turn it on and off by voice activation. And it's pretty cool, right? Do we sell a lot of it? No. But we're making a lot of friends that are saying this is very cool. And if you do this,
Dennis, this whole idea of voice activated showers, that goes back 25 years because my wife would just yell from the bed to say, turn it on and make sure it's warm. That was voice activated
okay,
with consequences.
This is a little different, And then we sell like Bertazzoni high-end Italian appliances. They're really different than anything else we have in here, but we're not going to sell a ton of them, but they look at it, and that helps us sell GE. And just like we do in the clothing business, if we have your best thing, then your medium, it doesn't sound as bad. So we have Baldwin handle sets for interior doors, and those are really expensive. But then we sell the regular quick set ones that are only $200 a unit, and they're happy with that because they bought the better and they didn't buy the best. So
you
we do that in
sneaky bugger,
the whole place here.
That's actually the science of persuasion. There's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Robert Cialdini, and there are 9, I think it's 9. It's been a while since I read the book, but there are 9 principles that we're motivated to react to. So one, for example, when we're watching commercials on TV and we see the people in the white coats, well, we defer the decision to the white coat because obviously that's a doctor. So
Right.
even though we know it's a movie star, like from MASH, holding up his favorite hemorrhoid cream because he's wearing that white coat, he must be the authority. The one thing that he discovered about pricing, and you're spot on with how you did this, if you start with the most expensive thing first, that becomes the comparison anchor. And then everything else by default is less expensive. So they tried that in it was a facility that sold pool tables, high-end pool tables, like 20,000, whatever. And they put the Cadillac or the Mercedes of pool tables right at the front door.
Yeah.
So when you walked in, you're going, oh, this is beautiful. You roll the ball around and you see the price tag. It's holy jumping. But as you went further and further into the Dragon's Den, the prices went down. And what they found was that most people, didn't want to justify spending way too much in their mind. But then when they looked at the bottom price, well, I'm better than that. And it seemed like the majority always gravitated to center. Did you find the same thing in the design center?
Exactly. But if you don't have the high end and you only have the middle, you're going to sell the lower end. So you have to have it all. And manufacturers have a problem with that. They want to sell the high stuff and they want to sell the low stuff to be able to get in the door. They neglect the middle area. Not so much in clothing, but in the building business, they do. So we're constantly working with flooring manufacturers and cabinet manufacturers to beef up that middle area because that's where the dollars are. They forget about it. Plus, you have a propensity right now with a lot of builders in the United States not offering buyers options. And they're having a package and it's only one thing, you have no choice and things like that. And where that's going, it'll be interesting to see. I think the buyers want choice. I don't think they want to be able to be led and just, have packages and things like that. So when I'm talking to some of these builders that have, no choices, I said, well, the buyers don't want choices. I said, well, how do you know? You don't give them one, I said, we give them a choice. If they want a package, we have packages. We have packages that are pre-done, they're curated and they look great and everything like that. The buyers don't take them. They take what they personalize because maybe I don't like that tile, or I don't like that backsplash, or I don't like that shower, or I don't like that cabinet or something. Well, all our buyers are different. And then they're different within each category. You got the people that love appliances, and you've got the people that could care less about appliances. You got the people that love flooring, and the people that say, I don't care about the flooring. You have different tastes and different things. So if you offer a large selection and you explain it to them, you tell it what it is, you're much better off having a much more satisfied buyer.
Well, your competition seems to have that mindset that Henry Ford had, that, yeah, you can have any color you want in black.
Yeah, as long as it's
The,
black.
the
Yeah.
same thing. There's a builder that I interviewed. His name's Scott Menard, and he's the president of Homes Built for America. And this is in California. And they build affordable housing. So they could have done high end, but they said, this is the sweet spot. We know our market. We know this is a, a market segment, if you will, that there will always be a demand for, people gravitating in. And he said the last thing that we wanted to do was almost feel like they were being penalized because they didn't have enough money to go into, let's say, mid-range homes. So we wanted to give them the ability to choose different things so it wouldn't feel like it's a box. And we gave them a selection. Now, mind you, it's a limited selection. It's not like, the full colors of the rainbow,
Yeah.
but they still felt like they were making it not a house. They were making it their home.
Yeah. That's exactly it. And so and how we do it is we, as I said, we've been doing this for 20 years. And so we improve every year. We get better. We listen to our customers. That's the other thing. We listen to our customers. If they want to zig, we zig. If they want to zag, we zag. We constantly change our merchandising based on what our customers are telling us.
So let me ask you about that, about your merchandising. Help me understand this, Dennis. So in a retail store, you're constantly bringing in, especially in clothing, you've got the spring line, you've got the fall line, and you're working with different, not manufacturers, but different designers. Is that the word, designers? But in the design center, you're not paying for the inventory, unless I'm wrong here. You've got all these different people like cabinet makers, faucets, toilets. The responsibility, if I'm getting this right, is we're going to give you a section in the store. It's up to you to put your stuff in there and keep it current and keep it sexy. So you're not really spending money on any inventory. Is the monkey on them?
Yeah, that's a tremendous advantage. But in retail, your biggest expense is your inventory. If inventory's one, rent's two. Okay. Well, here, inventory, there's no expense, and but we do it a little differently. We don't really rely on them. We select it. So I act as like the general merchandise manager, and my design center manager acts as a buyer. So we go to market, we go to all the shows, we go to IBS, we go to PCBC, we go to different just shows around the country. We're probably spending 7-8 weeks a year looking at new merchandise because we have to be on top of things. We have a big store. Last year we did $40 million out of this store. Okay. So $40 million is about the size of a fairly large Nordstrom store. Okay. So when I speak around the country about, how we do compared to other ones, in retail, we always talk about dollars per square foot. Okay. Sales per square foot. That's kind of the lead profit generator and kind of the way that everyone looks at things is dollars per square foot sold. Okay. So I got a chart, and I don't know if you can see it, but I'll show it to you anyway. And it's a chart that,
Okay.
it's kind of like that. And so what it is a chart of different retailers on how they do dollars per square foot. The first store is Apple. You probably heard of them. And they do $5,500 a square foot. The second store is Murphy USA. They're a convenience store, mostly in the South and Midwest, and they do $3,700 a square foot. The third store is Fulton Design Center, which does $3,461 a foot. And then the fourth is Tiffany, which does $2,900 a foot. And the fifth is Lululemon. They make yoga pants and stuff like that. And they do $1,560 a foot. And our friends Nordstrom does $500 a foot. So we're the third largest dollars per square foot retailer in the country.
Get out of Dodge, man. Number 3 in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. We just have one store,
So do Ira and Stan look at you as the son they've always wanted?
I hope so. They've been, actually it's Doug, and they've been so nice to me. It's unbelievable. They've just, their generosity and, they're great. It's just, I wrote my book and I sent a copy to my boss that in the retail business for about 15 years. Yeah. And he wrote back and said, the best thing you did was get out of the clothing business. And
That's a headline, my friend, in itself. The best thing you did, Dennis, is get out of men's clothing.
yeah,
That just opens up a whole facet there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So they've been pretty good. We really worked hard at making this store a great store, and we analyze everything. We make sure the buyers are on top of things. The buyers love what we do. The buyers average 10 hours online before their first design center appointment. 10 hours on their online portal before they even come in here for their appointment.
This is the other thing I've got to give you kudos for. You, again, because the retail background, actually your whole team has that retail background,
Yeah,
that you know the difference between advertising and marketing,
sure.
and which many builders don't. Advertising, for me, my interpretation would be it's ego based. We put money out there with our name, but there's no way to track it. And here's the crucial thing. What you're doing with marketing is basically a message that gets somebody to raise their hand. But more importantly, like a science, you're tracking the result. So okay, we spent $10,000 here. We only had like a 4 or 5% return on that. Not good. Well, look over here, 35% return. Let's transfer funds over. So you're treating this like a science, if I'm reading this correctly.
So when we first opened up the design center, I told Ira that we would do more business out of the design center one day than we did in all the Eagleson stores. He said, "Well, that'd be nice, but I don't think that's going to happen." And I said, "Well, we'll see." We did $25 million at Eagleson's, and so about the sixth year we were here, we did 25 million, and so a little bit more. And so I reminded him of that, and he just laughs and goes, "God, I had no idea." So our best year was 50 million. So that's 2 times what Eagleson's did. And last year we did about 40 million. But the thing that's crazy now is we did about 500 homes last year and we did 40 million. So we're averaging about $86,000 a house in upgrades. It's a lot of money.
And the fact that you can track it, to invest more in it. So,
You know exactly where it is.
yeah. Let's take a walk now. Let's get out of the retail store and go for a walk down the street. Tell me about Coldwater Springs, because this seems like something else that would have been cutting edge in your evolution. It was a golf community of all things. So you were actually building a community around a golf course.
We went in there initially with Standard Pacific at the time. They were another builder in town. And so we took half the lots and they took half the lots. It was about maybe 1,600 total lots or total home sites. Kind of a blue collar area over on the west side, but it was a big piece. And we had the opportunity to build a golf course. And we didn't want to own the golf course. We just
so
wanted
time out. There's no golf course there yet. You guys are actually building it. Okay.
Correct. So it's us and Standard Pacific. We took the lead. And then we said, well, it's going to be affordable golf living. And that's how we marketed it. Affordable golf course living, It was tough because it opened up, in a kind of time where things were a little bit shaky. The crash hadn't happened yet, but it wasn't, it was south of the freeway, which is not good. The I-10 freeway is kind of a dividing point in the west side. It was on the west side of town where most of our business has been on the east. So it was a little more difficult, but it resonated. We had a challenge getting the golf course done on time. We originally had Tom Sneva, the race car driver, was going to build a golf course, and he ran out of money and said to us, "We're not going to be able to hit your grand opening." We go, "That's a problem. We can't do that." So we went to court and sued them, and we won. Brought in another company called Landscapes Unlimited out of Nebraska, and they were great. And they finished the course, and we opened up on time and everything like that. But, full 18-hole course, we had about, maybe 10% of the homes were on the golf course. So it was quite a bit. And we got pretty good lot premiums and things like that. And affordable golf course living. So Standard Pacific, they didn't do as well as they had hoped. And so they bowed out after the first phase. And we continued on. So we ended up building about 1,500 homes there over a 4-year period and things like that.
Did the golf course become kind of like the community center, if you will, that kind of held everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Even people who didn't play golf would go there. They had a restaurant and everything like that. It was right in the middle of the community. And it brought a lot of people to the area that later bought houses and things like that. But these were houses we were selling for, 120,000, 130,000. They were not expensive.
How would that have compared to, like, let's say 10 blocks out or 2 miles out? Like, is that the same sort of price point, or was there a bit of a premium to live in this community?
No, it would be a similar price point. If you get into areas like Scottsdale or Tempe or Chandler or something like that, they're a little higher price. It would be a lot more. But this was on the west side of town, which was pretty affordable at the time. Kind of the west side was the newer part of town and didn't have the amenities that the east side had. East side had Scottsdale, Tempe, Chandler, and Gilbert, and the west side was Avondale and Glendale and Maryvale and places like that.
So your community did, as it grew, did it follow suit that the amenities started coming to you, like schools, shopping centers, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we actually had it so we would try to have a school in each community, and we would donate the land to the school district, and they would build a school because it just made sense to have communities have a school right in your community. Kids walk to school and everything like that. It was just great, and so we had one. This was hilarious. This was before it was before Coldwater Springs. It was a community called Fletcher Heights, and we had given the city of Peoria school district a big elementary school site right in the middle of the place, and we gave them the thing. And then after we were there about a year, we exploded. Our business was unbelievable. We were selling so many houses there, and the elementary school was there, and the kids went there, and things like that. So they decided to close the elementary school to all of our buyers, new buyers, which wasn't a good idea, and that has pretty profound effects on selling houses if school that's right there across the street you can't go to because the district said. So we kind of argued with them a little bit. So then we donated a 10-acre site to a charter school, and they opened up a school and took $5,000 a student away from the Peoria school, and we opened it up in 6 months. But it was brilliant, and it was just such a fun thing because all of a sudden the buyers were able to have their kids go to school. We had a camp out, and people camped out and they get enrolled for the next semester, and it was great. And then, of course, the city of Peoria said, "Well, we'll go ahead and reopen open enrollment. We'll reinstate that after the school was opened." In charter.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, they stayed at the charter school.
Talk about narrow-mindedness. You
Right.
hand them the land, they build a
Yeah.
school, then they say, "Well, thank you for the memories." It's like a bank. "Sorry, we can't advance your funds, but we'll give you a calendar," which
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is kind of a good segue. Let's talk about this for Dennis. What's the relationship like with money with you guys? So, for example, when you're doing this, you mentioned that you bought 800 lots. How did you guys finance this? Like, what was it, your own internal money, hard money? Was it banks? How did you put that together? And then jump forward to where we are today. What is it that you look for that will determine what is the perfect project and how we're going to fund it?
So we do it the opposite of what builders do. So most other builders, what they call, they're doing land light. So they don't want to carry things on the books because the return on investment becomes very diluted. So they try to keep everything, and they'll take stuff and bring it off book. So they'll have a land bank, and they'll kind of put the land over there, and then as they need it, they'll pull it from the land bank and pull it into their inventory where they actually have it. So your return on net assets looks pretty good, but it's kind of fake, you know, because it's kind of smoke and mirrors. So we don't have stockholders, so we don't have to worry about that. So it's an advantage to us to go ahead and take on the big pieces of land. And the advantage of a big piece of land is the fact that you can see you have 800 home sites, and you say, okay, I'm going to throw in $1,000 per home. You have a $800,000 investment there that you can use to improve that community, and it gets great returns with curb appeal and just the ambiance of the neighborhood and all the amenities that are in there and things like that. So by having those extra dollars in there because of the size of the thing and carrying it all on your books, we have a tremendous advantage. Our communities are nicer than all the other guys, okay, because we put the money into it. We'll put in aquatic centers and open spaces and pickleball courts and all sorts of stuff like that the other guys can't do. If you have a D.R. Horton taking down 150 lots, they can't do anything. They can put a tot lawn in maybe, and a fence around it or something, but they can't do the stuff that we do. And people want to live in a nice community. They just do.
Well, I guess that's the word to underline. They want to be part of a community versus I just park my car here and wake up in the morning. Right?
Correct.
There's a trend. I don't want to call it a trend because it's not a good thing. But what I'm seeing across the country now is banks are pulling back on their portfolio in building. And builders are finding themselves in a situation where they've been promised funding. And when they go for their next advance, the bank says, well, Dennis, been a great customer, love you. Here's a calendar, as I jokingly said earlier, but we can't advance to the next round. Are you feeling that pressure at all?
Not at all. But, our balance sheets are much better than them, those guys. The banks look at their returns and we're highly profitable. We're not here to, practice making homes. We know how to do it. So our volume has gone down as interest rates have shot up. We couldn't compete with some of this stuff. These other, the publics, they don't care about making money. They care about the stock price. We're playing on a completely different playing field. So we're in there to make money on each house and really get the premium buyer. And we're a first time, second time move up buyer. We don't do much in entry. Our average price point's about $650, which is on the middle upper end and things like that. And then throwing in another $85,000 a house in options helps that thing. Our houses are just nicer than the other ones. So the banks have been super cooperative.
Let me ask that question again, maybe in a different way. You're driving along doodly-doo and you see what you think is going to be the perfect project. Maybe it's a different developer has 100 lots they want to get rid of. And you're thinking, man, we could do something with that. How do you then decide, is this a good project? And then getting back to the money side, how do you decide how you're going to fund it?
Yeah. We wouldn't look at a 100 lot unit that doesn't fit our portfolio. So we would pass on that. And we're not buying from developers. We're usually buying from landowners, farmers,
Okay.
bigger pieces. We're buying, right now we've got a 550 acre piece that we're developing with 1,700 lots. And we put in 20 acres of lakes, big stuff like that, where we can get up.
Okay, so let's use that the example then. You've got that. How do you then fund it? What are the next steps? Again, is it bank, private money, your money, hard money? What is it?
The bank's money and our money. And then we'll use our money for the construction. We won't go for construction loans with the lenders. So with the banks. And it works out pretty good. And the banks have been super cooperative. So, and they're happy to have us because they can see what our profit's going to be compared to if we took a 200 unit or 100 unit thing and try to develop that. You just don't have the leverage.
Tell me a little bit about your Hearthstone Humanitarian Award.
That was pretty cool. So I read this thing, and Builder Magazine was the ones that did it. And it was Hanley Wood. Today there's Zonda, big company, good people. And I read this thing about the Hearthstone Humanitarian Award. They give it to one builder each year that has done the most to, for charitable and for philanthropic things. And so I said, well, Ira Fulton would be perfect for this, So I called up Builder Magazine and I talked to Denise Durson. I still remember her, still keep in touch with her, and said, I want to enter Ira Fulton. I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing and what things do you want to include and things like that. And so I told him the story. He goes, oh, God, it sounds terrific. So I wrote off this thing. They were very specific on what their criterion was and things like that. So it was about a 10-page application. It took me forever to do it, like writing a book, Hell, maybe not that long. But so I turned it in and, I get a call. They said, Ira Fulton won. He's going to be our Hearthstone Humanitarian Award, And so we're going to have a cocktail party at IBS. It will be at Caesar's Palace and it will be in his honor. And we're going to give you $100,000 award to give to any of your charities and things like that. And they wrote a big article in Builder Magazine on it. And So it was awesome. It was so, and Ira didn't know about it until we won. All right. I didn't tell him I entered it, and he was
Way
thrilled,
cool.
of course. So Ira's a Mormon fellow, and just that unbelievable, and very religious, and he's not a party goer per se. But we're having this cocktail party at the Caesar's Palace, and so we got to go to this cocktail party, And he goes, that's not my style. You got to pick up the award and stuff like that. And he goes, okay, so he flies up there just for the party, flies up, flies back, private jet, and takes his wife, and Doug and Norm were there, and their wives. It was just a fun night. And there was Builder magazine doing all the things and doing a big slideshow and everything like that. It was just a ball. And it was so good to give Fulton Homes the exposure, a little builder in Tempe, Arizona, to win that award, because it's mostly, these big, David Weekley type people that have won it in the past and stuff like that.
It's refreshing to see little builder being recognized for big things.
Right.
Yeah. My friend, I see we're kind of approaching the runway. I want to play a little game with you. I call it quick fire. And I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and I just want you to fill in the blank at the end. Don't think it. Don't overthink it. First thing that comes to mind when I ask you, and buckle up and let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
Here we go. Most builders underestimate the impact of
their customer.
Technology fails builders when it
isn't used.
Energy efficiency becomes a problem when it
not used at all.
Customer experience breaks down at a scale when it
fails to get wings.
Good one. Biggest retail lesson builders struggle to apply is
the customer is the most important thing in your business.
Okay, lane change into more personal. When I finally get a rare hour to myself, the thing I enjoy doing the most is
making furniture.
Wow, good one. The one place that always helps me reset, rethink, and get clarity is
Napa.
You're a wino. We have a lot in common, my friend. A book, movie, or quote that stayed with me longer than I expected is
you can't handle the truth.
Very good. Very good. The thing most people would never guess about me is
I have a degree in music.
Wow. What do you play?
I play the tuba.
Awesome. Man, oh man. Last one before we touch down. What a thoughtful and wonderful gift. As I unwrapped the package, to my delight, I found a
wealth of knowledge in there.
Wow. Okay. My friend, Dennis Webb, anything that I've left off the table here that you want to touch on?
I think what I want to do is help people understand their role in building houses for customers and doing it in a gentler and more profitable way. And you can do that by many things. But I think that we as an industry have a great opportunity to really improve things. And yet we're copping out. We're doing it halfway. It's not as genuine as it could be. And it's not as authentic as it should be. And I think that as builders, if we can do some of these things and take some of these retail principles and apply them, and particularly with regards to treating their customer with the utmost respect, it's going to improve the industry. And I'll do anything I can to help the industry. That's where I am. I don't need the money. I'm in good shape and everything like that. Just need more money to build furniture and stuff like that. Need more mahogany or something.
My friend, thanks for taking time out today. It's much appreciated. And I'd like to say, to be continued. And let me add to that. Will you be at IBS this year?
Yeah.
First beer's on me. I assume you drink beer?
Yeah.
Well, first one's on me, my friend. We're sponsoring the bookstore, and Sound will have a booth. So we definitely have to hook up.
Okay, great. Michael, it's been a pleasure.
Until then, safe travels, my friend, until we meet again.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to Builder Straight Talk. Make sure to like, comment, and share this episode on your favorite social media platform. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, available wherever you get your podcast streaming fix. Until next time, keep building smarter. This episode is made possible by our parent company, Sound Capital, funding built for builders.